Right then, welcome back. Today we're diving into something that's been quietly bubbling away in the MotoGP paddock. And no, it's got nothing to do with lap times or tire compounds. We're talking pure, unfiltered behind-the-scenes drama. Specifically, we're unpacking the bitter falling out between two of Ducati's satellite teams, VR46 and Gresini. A rivalry so petty it's apparently driving the blokes at Ducati headquarters absolutely spare. And on top of that, we'll be looking at who's likely to fill the seats at Gresini come 2027, because that story is shaping up to be quite the saga in its own right. Stick around. This one's a proper roller coaster. Let's rewind a bit, because none of this makes sense without a bit of backstory. For over 20 years, Pramac Racing was Ducati's golden child. Their primary satellite outfit, always first in the queue for the latest machinery, the best technical support, and the most promising young talent on the grid. They were, to put it plainly, Ducati's right hand. Then ahead of the 2025 season, Pramac did the unthinkable and jumped ship to Yamaha. It was a bombshell, frankly, and it left Ducati with a rather sizable hole to fill. Their answer? Elevate VR46, the team owned by the living legend that is Valentino Rossi, into that coveted number 2 spot. On paper, it made perfect sense. The name alone is worth a fortune in sponsorship and fan engagement. In practice, however, it turned out to be the beginning of a rather messy chapter. Here's where things start to get properly spicy. Ducati, in their infinite wisdom, decided they wanted to move young Spanish talent Fermin Aldeguer across to the VR46 team from 2027 onwards. On the surface, that might sound like fairly routine paddock reshuffling, but dig a little deeper and you'll quickly understand why Gresini absolutely hit the roof. Aldeguer has been flying the Gresini flag for 2 seasons now. This isn't some loanee who's just passing through. The lad was nurtured, developed, and backed by that team from the off, and the results have been anything but modest. In his very first season in MotoGP, he walked away with the Rookie of the Year title. This season, at just 21 years of age, he's been putting in seriously strong performances despite having only recently returned from a nasty thigh injury that would have floored most riders at twice his age. So imagine the feeling from Gresini's perspective. You've done all the hard graft. The early mornings, the long-haul flights, the patient development work. And just as your investment starts paying dividends, the manufacturer turns around and says, "Cheers for that, we'll take him from here." It's a bit like spending 3 years tending an allotment, only for your neighbor to waltz over and nick the tomatoes on harvest day. Understandably livid, Gresini. Now led by Nadia Padovani, the wife of the late, great Fausto Gresini, reportedly began casting their eyes elsewhere. The rumor mill went into overdrive, with whispers suggesting the team was on the verge of rekindling their old romance with Honda. A classic case of going back to your ex when the current relationship turns sour. In the end, the split didn't materialize. Gresini stayed put under the Ducati umbrella, but let's be absolutely clear. The fact that it was even a conversation speaks volumes about how strained things had become. The trust, once cracked, doesn't simply mend itself overnight. And as it turns out, the frostiness between the two satellite teams hasn't thawed one bit. Now, here's the bit that really caught everyone's attention. A senior Ducati executive, who, for fairly obvious reasons, declined to be named, decided to break cover and speak candidly about the whole sorry state of affairs. And what came out of their mouth was equal parts honest, hilarious, and slightly damning. Their words, roughly translated, were these: they simply do not get along. It's like constantly having to play referee between two bickering children who refuse to be in the same room as each other. Frankly, it's exhausting. Two bickering children. That's how a Ducati executive described their own satellite teams. You genuinely couldn't make it up. Here's one of the most successful manufacturers in the modern era of MotoGP. A team that's dominated the Constructors' Championship and produced multiple world champions, and they're spending their energy playing peacekeeper between two squabbling outfits who supposedly share the same badge. The executive went on to suggest that if Gresini were to eventually walk away from the partnership entirely, it wouldn't exactly keep anyone at Borgo Panigale awake at night. Ducati, it seems, already has contingency plans in place, which, depending on how you look at it, is either reassuringly pragmatic or a fairly pointed message to the Gresini camp. Right, enough of the political theater. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of what Gresini are actually going to do about their 2027 rider lineup, because it's fair to say they've got quite the rebuild on their hands. Come 2027, the team will be essentially starting with a blank sheet. Aldeguer, as we've established, is heading to VR46, Alex Marquez, who alongside his brother Mark has been one of the more compelling storylines of recent seasons, is off to KTM. Two experienced hands gone. What's left is a team with genuine heritage, a proud legacy, and precisely 0 riders confirmed for the season ahead. One name that briefly appeared on the shortlist was Nicolo Ballega, currently leading the World Superbike Championship and making rather a compelling case for himself. For context, Ballega extended his Ducati contract last year to remain in WSBK, while also taking on a test rider role for MotoGP as the sport prepares for the switch to the new 850 cubic centimeters regulations in 2027. He's not entirely untested at the top level either. He deputized for Marc Marquez on 2 occasions last season and managed to score points in both outings, which is no mean feat for someone drafted in at short notice. But Gresini, it seems, weren't particularly keen. No official explanation was given, though one suspects the team wants someone who can commit fully, rather than a rider juggling test duties and a superbike program on the side. So who are the genuine frontrunners? 2 names have emerged with considerably more substance behind them. The first is Dani Holgado, a young Spaniard currently making his mark in Moto2. Holgado has been developing steadily and represents exactly the kind of talent Gresini have historically been drawn to: raw, hungry, and with plenty of room to grow under the right guidance. If they can get him in the right machinery and give him time to settle, there's a real argument that he could be something quite special at the top level. The second name, and arguably the more intriguing of the two, is Enea Bastianini. Now, this one carries a certain romance to it. Bastianini's MotoGP journey began at Gresini, and it was in their colors that he claimed his very first Grand Prix victory. A win that announced him to the world as a genuine title contender. He's since moved on and is currently racing for the Tech 3 KTM outfit, but the prospect of a return to the team where it all began is apparently very much on the table. There's something poetic about going back to where you first tasted glory, isn't there? Whether that sentimentality translates into results is another matter entirely, but from a narrative standpoint, a Bastianini homecoming at Gresini would be a story worth telling. Now then, over to you. Which direction do you think Gresini should go? Do they take the experienced route and bring Bastianini back for a reunion with real emotional weight behind it? Or do they back the future and put their faith in Holgado as a long-term project? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Genuinely curious to hear where you lot stand on this one. And if you're enjoying content like this, do us a favor and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next installment. Tap the bell as well. That way you'll get the notification the moment something drops. Before you head off, I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. Do you think Gresini and Ducati can patch things up properly, or is a permanent split eventually inevitable? I've put a poll up in the community tab. Go and have your say. It only takes a second and it helps shape what we cover next. Right? That's your lot for today. Cheers for watching. Cheers for sticking it out to the end. You're the good ones, genuinely. Until next time, keep the rubber side down and we'll see you back here very soon. Take care.